It's really wonderful to see that it looks like we have close to 250 people on today's webinar for this program. So thank you so much. We are thrilled that you're here, and we hope you walk away with some more information and details about this very unique funding opportunity announcement. So welcome to the informational webinar for the Office of Clean Energy Demonstrations, Clean Energy Demonstration Program on Current and Former Mine Land, which we reference as the CEML program. This is a webinar on our recent funding opportunity announcement of $450 million. I'm Courtney Haynes, and I'm the engagement lead, and I'll be kicking us off here today. As always, before we move forward with these type of webinars, we do have to do a few housekeeping items. This webinar is being recorded, and it will be posted on the U.S. Department of Energy's OCED website. All participants are in listen-only mode. To turn on live captions, click on those three dots at the bottom of the screen that says More, and then from there you should be able to click on Captions and have that ability. We're not able to take questions and feedback today. However, we suggest that if you submit any questions you have about this funding opportunity, please do send it to minelandfoa@hq.doe.gov. Again, we are not taking any questions and feedback today due to the capacity of the webinar, but if you do, please send your question. We're able to then post those questions publicly, and we always say if you have the question, most likely somebody else does. So it's extremely helpful for others as well. Finally, a copy of today's presentation will be posted on our own OCED webpage soon, and a link to it will be posted on the OCED Exchange under this funding opportunity announcements post. The recording of today's session will also be available on this webinar's webpage in about 2 weeks. Next slide, please. The purpose of this webinar is to provide broad feedback and address certain themes that emerged during the review of questions submitted about this funding opportunity announcement to our email. Only publicly available information provided on OCED's funding opportunity announcements is going to be discussed at this webinar. By attending the webinar and watching the recording is completely voluntary and will not impact an applicant's selection. There are no particular advantages or disadvantages to the application evaluation process with respect to participating on the webinar today. And the webinar is not a rule or regulation, and the recommendations it contains may not apply to a particular situation based upon the individual facts and circumstances. If there are any inconsistencies between a specific funding opportunity announcement and the statements in this webinar, the funding opportunity announcement is the controlling document, and applicants should rely on that language. So, now that we've gotten through that, we can see what we're going to go through on the agenda here with the slide. We're going to do some introductions. We're going to get into the heart of the program itself, and then get into the specifics components of eligibility, applications, and the requirement. Then we'll have some closing remarks and next steps. But I know our whole team is very excited to have a very special guest with us here today who are going to spend a few minutes with us just to kick us off. So we have David Crane, who is our Office of Clean Energy Demonstrations Director. So thank you, David, for being here, and I'll hand it off to you.
Well, thank you, Courtney, and thank you for the entire team. And finally, and most importantly, thank you for all of those, the 200 some folks who are participating in this call, and for your interest in our $450 million funding opportunity for current and former mine lands. As Courtney said, my name is David Crane. I'm the director of the Office of Clean Energy Demonstration, and I have the honor of kicking off this webinar today. And I just want to say, on my own behalf and on behalf of everyone at OCED, we're just very excited about this program, because we think of all the programs we have, this is one of the programs where we can help fund projects that themselves can lead to widespread replication. That's really the objective for us. We're looking for some first proof points of how mine lands, current mine lands, and former mine lands can be repurposed as significant change levers for the green energy economy. The FOA itself, that Heidi Miller will review in more detail today, in the webinar, and allows for flexibility of technologies, project size, geographic location, and single or multiple site demonstrations. We developed this FOA after an extensive engagement process with the Mineland communities. We heard that there was significant interest in it, and we look forward to receiving a diversity of applications from across the country. And we look forward to partnering with a diverse set of partners. I'm really excited about the intersection of local economic and workforce development impact on these projects, the possibility of Mineland communities engaging directly in the ownership of these projects. And we look forward to see a lot of innovation, not just in the technology, but in the business model and the societal model, and in the hopes that we can do things that can be replicable in other parts of the country. The concept papers are due on May 11th. I encourage everyone on the phone to take that date very seriously, because we're very keen to stay on schedule as we move forward with this program. And just, finally, on a personal note, I just want everyone on the phone to know, particularly if you are speaking from or as part of a Mineland community, that we at the Department of Energy, and particularly at the Office of Clean Energy Demonstration, are keenly aware of the contribution Mineland communities have made to the economic success of the United States over the past 100 years. And it's very important to us that those Mineland communities have the opportunity to be part of the next phase of energy production and supply in the United States. So we look forward to partnering with you on that. With that, Courtney, back to you.
Great. Thank you so much, David. Well, before I pass it off and we get into the heart and the details of the program and the funding opportunity announcement itself, I'm just going to do a very brief overview of the Office of Clean Energy Demonstrations. Our mission is to deliver clean energy technology demonstration projects at scale in partnership with the private sector to accelerate deployment, market adoption, and the equitable transition to a decarbonized energy system. Going to the next slide, please. We were set up, we are a relatively new organization funded out of the bipartisan infrastructure law. We have a little over $25 billion in programming, and this slide here lists off some of those programs. You might be familiar with them, and obviously we're going to get into this clean energy demonstrations on Mineland. Really what drives us here at OCED, our mandate, falls into 5 categories. One is being a center of excellence, really serving as a primary office to deliver that full-scale clean energy demonstration projects and project management oversight. Second is clean energy and equitability, help enable 100% clean electricity by 2035 and net zero emissions by 2050 through an equitable energy transition. 3, we're always thinking about follow-on investment. So unlocking and scaling trillion-dollar clean energy follow-on investment from the private sector and of course other areas of capital. 4 is to de-risk technology, maintain risk-based balance and defensible portfolio of investments. And lastly, our last mandate is ongoing engagement and outreach. We want to leverage the learnings, the experiences of the private sector, of the broader energy ecosystems, and as David said, communities themselves, to really understand how we can collaborate, get feedback, and partner together to reach our shared goals. With that, next slide, please. I'm excited to introduce you to the program lead, Heidi Miller. So Heidi, take it from here.
Thanks so much, Courtney. I appreciate it. I'd like to welcome everybody. I'm really excited to see the numbers of folks that we have. To start with, today I'm going to go ahead and give you an overview of our CML program, the CEML program. So what the Clean Energy Demonstration Program is, it's a program on current and former mineland, referred to as CEML, and will provide financial investment, technical assistance, and other resources to advance replicable clean energy projects on current and former mineland across the nation. This program provides $500 million over 5 years with up to $450 million available in this funding opportunity. We will be funding up to 5 clean energy projects to be carried out over geographically diverse regions, at least 2 of which must be solar projects. This program was created by President Biden's bipartisan infrastructure law. The program aims to fund projects that demonstrate replicable pathways that resolve key barriers to clean energy development on my land. It also preservation of natural and agricultural resources through repurposing mine land for clean energy projects. Benefits of integrating clean energy on mine land, including direct community benefits and the potential to achieve near net zero mining operations. Next slide, please. To go over the award information, we do have up to $450 million in funding available in this funding opportunity. The award size will be at least $10 million and no more than $150 million in our federal funds share. Applicants will be bound by the cost share proposed in their applications if selected for award negotiations. DOE is requiring that the non-federal cost share be at least 50% of the total project costs for demonstration projects. The anticipated maximum project period is 7 years, and the scope of the proposed project would determine that specific project period within that maximum project period. The applicant will establish 4 phases for the proposed project. DOE will initially fund phase 1. Each subsequent phase is dependent on a go or no-go determination by OCED based on the recipient's performance. Next slide, please. So to give you an overview of the funding opportunities, we do have one topic area, but it's divided into 4 areas of interest, which I'll refer to as AOIs. The projects may include elements of one or more of the following areas of interest or AOIs. The first one is area of interest A. This is for solar with or without battery energy storage on current mine land. This AOI includes PV solar projects with or without battery energy storage on current mine land. This AOI encourages projects that lead to near net zero mining operations. Now, projects proposed under this AOI should demonstrate the potential to generate clean energy on reclaimed land, tailing ponds, surface water reservoirs, and/or disturbed flat areas from solar with or without energy storage for current mining operations. DOE is particularly interested in projects that reduce greenhouse gas emissions at active mine sites, which supports other aspects of the clean energy transition, including the production of lithium, cobalt, and/or copper. DOE also encourages projects that deploy innovative solutions that make mining operations more sustainable and economically viable, i.e. demand shaving or load shifting. Now, area of interest B is all technologies on current mine land. So this AOI includes one or more of the following technologies on current mine land: solar, microgrids, geothermal, direct air capture, fossil fueled electricity generation with carbon capture utilization and sequestration, energy storage, or advanced nuclear technologies. It's important to note that projects under this AOI should demonstrate the potential for the use of the current mine land for clean energy generation and storage. DOE encourages projects that support all aspects of the clean energy transition. Let's go ahead and go to the next slide. The third area of interest is area of interest C. Now this one is solar PV with or without battery storage on former mine land. So this AOI encourages projects that leverage former mine land to deploy solar projects that support the economic revitalization of disadvantaged communities. DOE is particularly interested in projects that incorporate a community ownership or equity business model where community members can participate in and share the economic benefits of the solar energy system. DOE encourages clean energy projects that are in aggregations of multiple solar projects or sites. Aggregation refers to conducting more than one project at multiple locations in a manner that leads to a demonstrable benefit relative to conducting that project at only one location. Aggregated projects may have a common interconnection point or maybe multiple small-scale projects like less than 20 megawatts within a distinct community, thereby enabling enhanced levels of community participation and ownership. And the last of our areas of interest is all technologies on former mine land. So this AOI includes one or more of the following technologies on the former mine land. Includes solar, microgrids, geothermal, direct air capture, fossil fueled electricity generation with carbon capture, utilization, and sequestration, energy storage, and advanced nuclear technologies. Now, projects under this AOI should utilize the former mine land for clean energy generation and storage projects that create new jobs and community-focused revenue streams for economically distressed areas and former mining communities. Next slide. So the OCED project management structure follows a very structured phased management approach that the application should manage in accordance with the phases. So the approach includes the following 4 phases. Phase 1 is a detailed project planning. Phase 2 includes project development, permitting, and financing. Phase 3 is installation, integration, or construction. And then the final phase is phase 4, which is ramp up and sustained operations. I will now pass it to Chris, one of our project managers, to go through some questions and answers.
Thank you, Heidi. So I'm going to share with you a couple of questions and answers. So the first one is, area of interest B states in 2.3.3 that this AOI includes one or more of the following technologies on current mine land: solar, microgrids, geothermal, direct air capture, fossil fueled electricity generation with carbon capture, utilization, and sequestration, energy storage, and advanced nuclear technologies. This includes a combination of a solar and another technology listed above. Does DOE intend to require projects submitted under AOI-B to include solar and another technologies, or can it just be the other technology? Proposals can include any of the technologies listed or technologies listed in combination, including with solar. Next slide, please. Are costs for a project incurred prior to the award eligible for funding? As mentioned in section A.1.2 in the funding opportunity announcement, pre-award costs are not allowable unless they have received written approval from the federal awarding agency through the DOE Grants and Agreements Officer. Pre-award costs are costs incurred prior to the effective date of the federal award, directly pursuant to the negotiation and in anticipation of the federal award, where such costs are necessary for efficient and timely performance of the scope of work. Pre-award expenditures are made at the applicant's risk. So the next question, are funded projects eligible to also receive the investment tax credit and or production tax credit? The Inflation Reduction Act, or IRA tax credits, including the investment tax credit and the production tax credit, are not considered federal funds for purposes of establishing cost share. Projects funded under the FOA may be eligible to receive such tax credits provided they meet for the relevant credits. As mentioned in section 5.6.2.2 of the funding opportunity announcement, project proposals must disclose all funding sources, including IRA tax incentives, in the project overview section of the technical volume. Next slide, please. Can reclamation activities be funded under this program? Although DOE will fund the site preparation activities, including some reclamation activities as necessary to successfully deploy the clean energy project being proposed, the department will not consider projects that are primarily about reclamation sites. All tasks that make up the total project costs should be included and described in the project proposal. And lastly, under section 5.6.2.2, section C, business development and project management, if applicable, the applicant must provide a plan which shows that the site selected is suitable and reclaimed, or will be reclaimed according to the appropriate standards and land use reclamation requirements. Reclamation activities required to prepare and develop the land as part of the proposed clean energy project may be eligible for funding. And at that, I'll pass it off back to you, Heidi. Thank you.
Thanks so much, Chris. Appreciate it. So now I'm going to go over the eligibility requirements, and just to make sure that I clarify, I will be referring to our program as CEML, but sometimes I slip and say CML. So just so that you know, it is CEML. So to go over our eligibility requirements, to be considered for evaluation, submissions must meet the following criteria. If the application does not meet all the eligibility requirements, it will be considered ineligible and removed from further evaluation. In accordance with Bill Section 40342, eligible projects will demonstrate a clean energy project on a current or former mine land site with a reasonable expectation of commercial viability. The term clean energy project means a project that demonstrates one or more of the following technologies: solar, microgrids, geothermal, direct air capture, fossil fueled electricity generation with carbon capture, utilization, and sequestration, energy storage, which includes pumped storage hydropower and compressed air storage, or advanced nuclear technologies. I will now pass it to Sheila, one of our project managers, to go through some questions and answers.
Thank you, Heidi. Some questions we have received regarding the eligible technologies are, the first question is, can you expand on the definition of microgrids? The response here is, the U.S. Department of Energy, DOE, defines a microgrid as a group of interconnected loads and distributed energy resources within clearly defined electrical boundaries that acts as a single controllable entity with respect to the grid. A microgrid can connect and disconnect from the grid to enable it to operate in both grid-connected or island mode. Another question we've received is, for energy storage, does this include thermal energy storage? The response here is yes, thermal energy storage is included under the energy storage category. Next slide, please. The final question in this category is, I understand qualifying technologies include solar, microgrids, geothermal, direct air capture, fossil-fueled electricity generation with carbon capture, utilization, and sequestration, energy storage, including pumped storage hydropower and compressed air storage, and advanced nuclear technologies. Could clean fuel solutions count as energy storage? Our response here is, the clean energy technologies that are considered eligible for this program and funding opportunity announcement are limited to how the term clean energy project is defined in the statute. As stated above, Congress instructed the department to consider energy storage projects and identified two specific types of energy storage solutions. These examples are not the only possible eligible energy storage projects. For other energy storage technologies not listed in statute, applicants should substantiate how their technology is an energy storage technology. Therefore, DOE may consider clean fuels as energy storage, but only if the primary intent of the technology is to provide energy storage. Next slide, please, and I will now pass it back to Heidi.
Thank you so much, Sheila. I appreciate it. I'm going to continue with our CEML eligibility requirements. The term mine land means land subject to Titles 4 and 5 of the Surface Mining Control and Reclamation Act of 1977, or land that has been claimed or patented subject to the mining law of 1872. In order to be eligible, the clean energy project will need to be substantially on mine land, per the definition above. Ancillary and support systems needed to deliver the electricity may be located on property not meeting the mine land definition. DOE will not make eligibility determinations for potential applicants prior to the date on which applications to this FOA must be submitted. The decision whether to submit an application in response to this FOA lies solely with the applicant. Next slide, please. Okay, eligibility under each of the mining lands. Eligibility under the Surface Mining Control Act, Reclamation Act, SMCRA of 1977. Applicants to this FOA claiming eligibility through SMCRA must show that the mine or former mine land is subject to either Titles 4 or 5 of SMCRA. An applicant may provide copies of the Title 5 permit from the applicable permitting authority or demonstrate that the application site is in the Title IV database maintained by the Office of Surface Mining, Reclamation, and Enforcement as indica of eligibility under Titles 4 and 5 of SMCRA. For the eligibility under the Mining Law of 1872, applicants to the FOA claiming eligibility through the Mining Law of 1872 must show that the current or former mine land originated from a claim or a patent under the Mining Law of 1872. An application based upon a patented claim should provide a title search, tying the site to a patented claim under the Mining Law of 1872. Unpatented claims should produce claims filed with the appropriate body having authority to receive claims, including the Bureau of Land Management and County Records. Applicants who are unable to produce this information may provide, with explanation, other indicators of eligibility under SMCRA or the Mining Law of 1872. I will now pass it to Jillian, one of our project managers, to go through some questions and answers.
Thank you, Heidi. Apologies, everyone, too, that we lost the visual. We're working on getting that back up for you. But in the meantime, I'll go over a few questions and answers that we received on the mine land eligibility question. So the first question is there a map or a list of sites that show which sites are either SMCRA or Mining Law of 1872? The answer to this question is, unfortunately, we have not identified a map or a list of sites. The second question on mine land eligibility is, will an entire clean energy project qualify if only part of the underlying land or parcels meet the requirement of the mine land definition? The answer to this question is, as mentioned in section 4.0 in the funding opportunity announcement or the eligibility information section, as long as the clean energy project is substantially located on eligible mine land, it will be considered under this program. The next question we received on mine land eligibility is, does this program cover hard rock mines on private land, since the Mining Law of 1872 only applies to public land? The answer to this question is, if the original title of the private land can be tied back to the Mining Law of 1872, then the project will be considered eligible under the program. The final question that we received is, how close to the mine land does a project need to be eligible? Does the ground actually have to be disturbed? Or if a mine land is on a much larger piece of land that was once all owned collectively by a mining company, is that considered mine land? The answer to this question is, as long as the clean energy project is substantially located on eligible mine land, it will be considered eligible under this program. Therefore, the land does not need to be disturbed in order for it to be considered for this program. Thank you, and sorry again for the technical issues. I'll pass it back to Heidi.
Thanks so much, Jillian, appreciate it. Go ahead and go to the next slide. So to continue with the CEML eligibility requirements, the proposed applicant and subrecipients must be domestic entities. The following types of entities are eligible to participate as an applicant or subrecipient of this FOA. It includes institutions of higher education, nonprofit entities, for-profit entities, Indian nations as defined per our DOE Order 144.1, Section 7A, state and local governmental entities, incorporated consortia, and unincorporated consortia. Federal agencies and instrumentalities other than DOE, like DOE National Nuclear Security Administration, which is NNSA, Federally Funded Research and Development Center, that FFRDC that you'll see on there, and non-DOE National Nuclear Security Administration, Federally Funded Research and Development Center, are eligible to participate only as a subrecipient and are not eligible to apply as a prime recipient. The federally funded Research and Development Center effort in aggregate shall not exceed 1% of the total estimated cost of the project, including the applicant's and the federally funded Research and Development Center's portion of the effort. Domestic incorporated consortia are eligible to participate as a prime recipient or subrecipient. For additional information on eligible applicants, please reference section 4.1 of the funding opportunity announcement. Next slide, please. So I'm going to go over concept paper and application submission information. The application process includes multiple phases, the concept paper phase and the full application phase. For the concept paper, it must address all the requirements described in the FOA section 5.6.1. DOE will review only the authorized number of pages. Please note, all statements of expertise provided will need to be substantiated in the application submission. See section 5.6.2. DOE makes an independent assessment of each concept paper based on the criterion in section 6.1.1. DOE will encourage a subset of applicants to submit applications, and other applicants will be discouraged from submitting an application. See section 7.1.1. It's important to note that only applicants who have submitted an eligible concept paper will be eligible to submit a full application. Next slide. So for concept papers, each applicant must provide the following information as part of their concept paper. They need to have a cover page, a demonstration plan and project team description, a community benefits plan, and the management and organization. Each concept paper must be limited to a single project site or an aggregated set of proposed project sites. The concept paper must conform to the requirements and should be no more than 10 pages. DOE will notify applicants of its determination to encourage or discourage the submission of an application. DOE will post these notifications to OCED Exchange. Applicants may submit an application even if they receive a notification discouraging them from doing so. By discouraging the submission of an application, DOE intends to convey its lack of programmatic interest in the proposed project. Such assessments do not necessarily reflect judgments on the merits of the proposed project. The purpose of the concept paper phase is to save applicants the considerable time and expense of preparing an application that is unlikely to be selected for award negotiations. Ineligible concept papers and applications will not be further reviewed or considered for award. The Grants and Agreements Officer will send a notification letter by email to the technical and administrative points of contact designated by the applicant in OCED Exchange. The notification letter will state the basis upon which the concept paper or application is ineligible and not considered for further review. Next slide, please. Now for the application, a full application must include a technical volume, which includes the following components that are further detailed. It includes a cover page, the project overview, the business development and management plan, the work plan, engineering, procurement, construction and operations, safety and occupational health, cybersecurity, permitting and regulatory requirements, the risk analysis and mitigation, and lastly, the techno-economic analysis and life cycle analysis projections. I will now pass it to Jill, our Energy Justice Liaison, to go through the community benefits plan.
Thank you, Heidi. Full applications must also include a community benefits plan describing how the project will incorporate the following 4 objectives. The first is meaningful community and labor engagement. The second is investment in the American workforce. The third is advancing diversity, equity, inclusion, and accessibility. And the fourth is to contribute to the president's goal that 40% of overall benefits flow to disadvantaged communities. This is covered under the Justice 40 initiative. For the full list of application requirements, please see Appendix B, the application requirements checklist in the FOA. Next slide. I do a question and answer. Question, do communities need to be in disadvantaged communities to be eligible for the program? And the answer is, communities do not need to be identified as disadvantaged communities to be eligible for this program. Eligibility is related to eligible clean energy projects and eligible mine land as defined in statute. This program is covered under the Justice 40 initiative, which directs 40% of the overall benefits of certain types of federal investments, including investments in clean energy and energy efficiency, to flow to disadvantaged communities. The distribution of benefits is measured across all OCED projects, meaning individual projects are not required to direct 40% of benefits to disadvantaged communities. In line with the intent and goals of the Justice 40 initiative, all projects are asked to maximize benefits and mitigate harms to any potentially impacted community, and to track and report these impacts to DOE. For more on the Justice 40 initiative and DOE's definition of disadvantaged communities, you can go to DOE's website and look for information on the Justice 40 initiative. Next slide, please, and I will pass it back to Heidi.
Thanks so much, Jill. Appreciate it. Submission information. All submissions must conform to the form and content requirements described in the FOA, including maximum page lengths. Submissions must follow the following requirements: submitted in Adobe PDF format unless stated otherwise, written in English, formatted on 8.5 by 11 inch, margins not less than 1 inch, Calibri typeface, black font with a font size of 12 points or larger. To apply for this FOA, applicants must register with and submit an application materials through our OCED Exchange, which is our OCED's online application portal. For detailed instructions, they were located at Financial Opportunities Manuals and energy.gov. OCED Exchange is designed to enforce the deadlines specified in this FOA. All applicant submissions must comply with the applicable content and form requirements listed in section 5.0 of the FOA, include all required documents, be successfully uploaded in OCED Exchange, including clicking the submit button, and be submitted by the deadline stated in the FOA. DOE will not review or consider applications submitted through means other than OCED Exchange, applications submitted after the applicable deadline, or incomplete applications. The evaluation process consists of multiple phases. Each includes an initial eligibility review and a thorough technical review. Next slide, please. Concept papers and application review information. So concept papers will be reviewed and based on the one criteria, overall FOA responsiveness and viability of the project that has 100% weight. Now, applications are going to be reviewed based on 5 criteria. This includes the technical merit, innovation, and impact, which represents 20% of the overall score. The financial and market viability, representing 25% of the overall score. The work plan, which is 15%. The management and team project partners, 20%. And the community benefits plan, which is 20%. For more details on the specific comments within each criterion, please reference section 6.2 of the FOA. Next slide, please. Selections and awards. A selection official may consider the following in determining which applications to select for award negotiations: technical merit, the Federal Consensus Board's recommendations, the program policy factors, and the amount of funds available in arriving at selections for this FOA. DOE will notify applicants of its determination via a notification letter by email to the technical and administrative points of contact designated by the applicant in our OCED Exchange. The notification letter will inform the applicant whether or not its application was selected for award negotiations. Applicants do not receive an award until award negotiations are complete and the Grants and Agreements Officer executes the funding agreement. Applicants must designate a primary and a backup point of contact in OCED Exchange with whom DOE will communicate to conduct awards negotiations. Next slide. Now, some of the most important thing are the deadlines for both the concept paper and applications. Concept papers are due May 11th, 2023, no later than 5 p.m. Eastern Time. Applications are due August 31st, 2023 at 5 p.m. Eastern Time. And with that, I'd like to turn it over to Sheila, back over to Sheila for some additional comments.
Thank you, Heidi. DOE personnel are prohibited from communicating in writing or otherwise with applicants regarding the FOA, except through the established question and answer process as described below. Specifically, questions regarding this FOA must be submitted to minelandfoa@hq.doe.gov. Questions must be submitted no later than 3 business days prior to the application due date and time. Please note, feedback on individual concepts will not be provided through Q&A. All questions and answers related to this FOA will be posted on OCED Exchange. You must first select the specific FOA number to view questions and answers specific to this FOA. OCED will attempt to respond to a question within 3 business days, unless a similar question and answer has already been posted on the website. Questions related to the registration process and use of the OCED Exchange website should be submitted to OCED-exchange support@hq.doe.gov. Include the FOA name and number in the subject line. Please also refer to the FOA for the definition of used terms and additional information related to the requirements and any additional post-application submission information. I will now pass it back to Heidi to close us out.
Thanks so much, Sheila. Appreciate it. I'd like to thank you to all of the speakers that have spoke today. Appreciate it. On behalf of the entire Clean Energy Demonstration Program on current and former mine land, we would like to thank all attendees for listening to the webinar. As a reminder, the FOA remains the controlling document. If information was presented differently in the webinar from the FOA is the guiding document and applicants should refer to the FOA. The recording of the webinar will be posted to the OCED website within the next couple weeks. Thank you again for attending and have a great day.